As the story continues, Xiao Yan and his companions finally awaited the day when the results of the selection test would be announced. The elder atop the high platform slowly spoke. Next, I will announce the top 3 among the new recruits with 5th-tier talent. Upon hearing this, the pupils of those gathered in the square tightened. All 6 candidates were already in the mid-stage of the 4-star Dou realm, so the strength of the top 3 would be even more terrifying. The third among the new recruits with 5th-tier talent, Mu Feng. The elder on the high platform announced again, his tone calm and measured. Standing beside Xiao Yan and Yue Ru, Mu Feng appeared unfazed, as if he had anticipated this result long ago. He gracefully ascended towards the high platform. That guy is actually the third among the new recruits with 5th-tier talent? Who would have thought? Never judge a book by its cover. Quite impressive. Envious murmurs could be heard from those around. Xiao Yan and Yue Ru turned their heads simultaneously. For Xiao Yan, Mu Feng receiving such recognition was not surprising at all. After all, he had crossed paths with Mu Feng in the icy underground pool, and even though their encounter was brief, Xiao Yan knew Mu Feng's strength was formidable. Yue Ru, on the other hand, was quite surprised. The young man in the robe turned out to be the third in the 5th-tier talent ranking, which genuinely startled her. Xiao Yan, don't be too shocked later, Yue Ru said, not overly concerned with Mu Feng's achievements, as she had only just met him today. She turned her gaze to Xiao Yan instead. Hearing this, Xiao Yan didn't respond much. Though Yue Ru was merely at the peak of the 3-star Dou level, the inheritance mark on her forehead had even received praise from their master, the Golden Dragon King, indicating the extraordinary power of her inheritance. How come the third ranked is just a boy in the early stage of the 4-star Dou? Someone with sharp eyes in the square noticed Mu Feng's level and was visibly surprised. Some new recruits with 4th-tier talent also had the early stage 4-star Dou strength. As for those who achieved the 5th-tier talent, they were all mid-stage 4-star Dou experts, and they accepted this ranking. Now, seeing someone of their level ranked among the top 3 with 5th-tier talent, they couldn't help but be puzzled. How did Mu Feng, who is clearly only at the early stage of the 4-star Dou, get rated as one of the top 3 new recruits with 5th-tier talent? This thought crossed many minds in the square. Proceed, but be careful. Your aura is becoming more and more like a specter's, the elder spoke again slowly. Mu Feng grinned, knowing that his little tricks couldn't fool these seasoned individuals. Off you go, and be more cautious when dealing with specters in the future, the elder added. With that, Mu Feng returned. He casually walked back to where Xiao Yan and Yue Ru stood, as if nothing had just happened. Comparatively, Xiao Yan and Yue Ru were quite puzzled. Several of their peers who had come with them were now scattered, each fending for themselves in this place. Most had run off to form alliances, but Xiao Yan and Yue Ru hadn't bothered. Despite being ranked among the top 3, Mu Feng still smiled kindly at Xiao Yan, showing he was someone worth befriending. What do you think? Asked a graceful woman in a snow-white gown with a long ponytail that complemented her attire beautifully. In my opinion, although his strength is a bit lacking, his aura hints that he's a seasoned fighter, unlike those pampered scions who feared death, Huang Zong replied. Oh, is that so? Zhu Zhuqing responded. Her whip, previously coiled around her waist, now resembled a rope in her hand. I heard the top 3 this time are quite peculiar, but the specifics are confidential. However, it seems this selection test is related to talent differentiation, Song Cheng remarked with a smile. After all, the ones standing here were all evaluated as new recruits with 5th-tier talent. Oh, Song Cheng, where did you get this information? Etienne asked curiously. Standing here signified that their respective talents and strengths were not to be underestimated, and it might be worth forming alliances. I paid a hefty sum for it, Song Cheng replied, clearly feeling the pinch. He had spent a lot but received such vague information, which made him feel somewhat regretful. I've heard Brother Song Cheng's intelligence network is quite refined. Today's encounter proves it true, Liexan said with a smile. I wonder who will take the first and second spots this time? Luo Ming pondered aloud. As Luo Ming's voice trailed off, all 6 individuals shifted their gazes toward the high platform. The elder began to announce the second-place winner. The second of the new recruits with 5th-tier talent is Yue Ru. The elder finished, a slight smile crossing his face. Clearly, this year's top 3 were unlike any other year. On the jade slip, the name of the second-place winner, Yue Ru, appeared, accompanied by a few other names the elder chose not to read out. Upon hearing her name, Yue Ru smiled softly at Xiao Yan, then gracefully flew up to the high platform. "Greetings, elder." Yue Ru greeted him with deep respect. "Hee, stand up, my dear. Such formality is unnecessary." The elder chuckled warmly. Those in the square watched as Yue Ru's long silken strands cascaded down her back, swaying gently in the breeze. Combined with her slender figure and striking beauty, it gave the impression of a fairy descending to the mortal world. How is that possible? Not far from Xiao Yan and the others, a man known as Maku stared wide-eyed at Yue Ru on the high platform, a look of disbelief plastered across his face. Oh! Mu Feng, standing beside Xiao Yan, was also surprised. He hadn't expected this seemingly delicate woman at the peak of the Three-Star Dou to surpass him. "Only second, huh? I thought this time it might be my turn," Xiao Yan muttered softly, surprised that even Yue Ru, with her status as an inheritor, could only rank second. What is this? How can someone with the peak strength of a Three-Star Dou deserve second place? Is this some kind of backdoor deal? Or have you lost your mind in your old age? Shouted a man in the square, clearly dissatisfied with the ranking. Exactly. How can the strength of a peak Three-Star Dou earn such a high rank? Is there some shady deal behind this? Others in the crowd, mostly recruits with first or second-tier talent who were just here for the spectacle, chimed in, adding fuel to the fire. They were not afraid of escalating the situation. The square erupted into chaos, with everyone buzzing like ants on a hot pan, debating the legitimacy of Yue Ru's second-place ranking. Yue Ru glanced down with her dark eyes, her gaze meeting Xiao Yan's resolute look. She smiled gently, evidently unbothered by the taunts from the crowd below. Humph! As the crowd continued their jeering, the elder on the high platform suddenly let out a cold snort before speaking again. Yue Ru is an inheritor? Those few words exploded like thunder in the square. An inheritor. Everyone on the Xinling continent was familiar with this title. If the chance of becoming an alchemist was 1 in 10,000, then the odds of becoming an inheritor were another 1 in 10,000 among those alchemists. This alone showed how stringent the requirements were to become an inheritor. How could it be? This woman is actually an inheritor? Huan Xia and the others nearby exclaimed in unison. With the elder's words, the square fell into a deathly silence. Countless people stared wide-eyed at Yue Ru on the high platform, as if looking at the most revered person. They were acutely aware of the weight that the title of inheritor carried. Elder, I don't care about these things, so why bother? Yue Ru slightly furrowed her brow. She only wanted to join a sect quietly, cultivate until she could receive her inheritance, and then help Xiao Yan. Though she didn't know why, Yue Ru vaguely felt that Xiao Yan harbored some unusual secrets, something she had discerned from the inheritance mark on her forehead. Moreover, it was Xiao Yan who had healed her father's injuries. Now, with her father managing the family, they were living comfortably. She had already wasted too much time before. Now, in her prime, she had the opportunity to pursue her own happiness. No need to worry. After all, such an occurrence is a blessing for our mystic 3 heavens. The elder smiled with satisfaction. I understand your concerns. Revealing your identity as an inheritor might not be ideal, but what you don't know is that in the mystic 3 heavens, inheritors are held in the highest regard. Each inheritor is closely watched and protected by significant figures here, so you needn't worry too much, the elder quickly explained, clearly misunderstanding Yue Ru's intentions. Yue Ru didn't say much in response. An inheritor. The commotion in the square reached a fever pitch. Those present understood the value of an inheritor, someone who could rival even an alchemist. While alchemists possessed vast networks, inheritors had formidable strength and unique techniques. Each had their strengths, but achieving either status was exceedingly rare. This woman is actually an inheritor. Maka's eyes widened, recalling how he had looked down on her earlier. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Even though Yue Ru was only at the peak of the 3-star Dou, in a real fight, not even those at the 4-star Dou level could confidently defeat her. That was because she was an inheritor. Inheritance. Inheritance indeed. Inheritors are individuals born with unique constitutions or extraordinary talents, which make them candidates to inherit the legacy of a supreme powerhouse. Although the chances are only 50-50, inheritors undoubtedly possess something left behind by such mighty beings. Therefore, as long as someone is an inheritor, they possess formidable power. In addition to their own cultivated strength, they can also draw upon the power of the supreme powerhouse they are connected to. To be considered a supreme powerhouse, one's strength must be at least at the level of a Dou Xian. A Dou Xian. To these ordinary Dou, they are as insignificant as ants in the eyes of a Dou Xian. So, even if the inheritor's personal strength is somewhat lacking, few dare provoke them. The inheritor has within them some of the power of the supreme powerhouse. Though it may be faint, it is more than enough to deal with these Dou. Thus, inheritors are not only exceptionally gifted individuals, but they also possess terrifying potential. Once they accept the power of inheritance, and if the inheritance succeeds, their strength will increase dramatically. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say it would be like a fish leaping over the dragon gate. An inheritor, huh? I'd like to see just how powerful this inheritor is. They should make a good opponent, Huang Zong muttered to herself, her eyes filled with a strong desire for battle. Absolutely not. An inheritor is extremely formidable, and we don't know what kind of power they possess. It's better to be cautious, especially since we might end up as teammates in the upcoming selection rounds, Song Chung advised. Huh. If you're scared, just say so. Huang Zong retorted bluntly, showing no mercy as she exposed Song Chung. Song Chung could only smile wryly. It wasn't that he feared Huang Zong. It was just that the selection process hadn't started yet, and it wasn't worth revealing too much of his hand. Still, he couldn't deny that dealing with Huang Zong would be tricky. Zhu Qing, standing nearby, couldn't help but burst into laughter. Sister Xiao, why bother with them? They're just a bunch of big, burly men, Zhu Qing teased. Hearing this, the four men exchanged glances. Though they couldn't deny it, was there really a need to say it so bluntly? Zhu Qing was always one to stir the pot, but the men chose not to argue further. Huang Zong snorted coldly and turned away, her gaze shifting to the elder on the high platform and the slim figure beside him. You may go, the elder said gently, handing a token to Yue Ru. Yes. Yue Ru ignored the thousands of eyes watching her from the square below, lightly tapped her toes, and returned to Xiao Yan's side. She smiled at Xiao Yan, confident that his talent was no less than hers. Next up is the final recruit with 5th-tier talent, and also the top among the 9 newcomers. Xiao Yan. The elder glanced at the jade slip in his hand and called out. On the jade slip, beside Xiao Yan's name, were several descriptors, soul power of level 10. Then, in a slightly teasing tone, the elder's voice echoed from the high platform. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan showed no great surprise. He had initially thought that ranking second would be impressive, given Yue Ru's status as an inheritor overshadowed him. But to find himself ranked first, this he had not expected. Amidst the envious gazes of thousands in the square, Xiao Yan calmly and steadily made his way to the high platform. The man referred to as Ma Ku, standing near Xiao Yan, was utterly shocked as he watched Xiao Yan approach the high platform step by step. What is he doing? Could that Xiao Yan really be him? Ma Ku's eye twitched furiously. The 3 people he had just underestimated turned out to be the top 3 of the new recruits with 5th-tier talent. Xiao Yan greets the elder, Xiao Yan said upon reaching the high platform. He, you must be the one Wu Jiang mentioned, right? A soul strength at the Imperial Realm level. Even I don't possess such a powerful soul strength. Truly envious of you young people, the elder spoke slowly, gazing at Xiao Yan with admiration. Elder flatters me. It's all just luck, Xiao Yan responded without a hint of arrogance. Only he knew how much hardship he had endured to gain his formidable strength and soul power. The new recruits with 5th-tier talent this year are quite something, huh? A mere peak 3-star Dou is enough to claim the top spot? Ma Ku exclaimed, clearly shocked. "Oh, what do you intend to do about it?" Xiao Yan, who had already noticed Ma Ke's earlier intentions, calmly responded. As Xiao Yan's words fell, the crowd in the square finally snapped out of their shock. They had been stunned by the elder's announcement of the first-place winner. Being ranked first among the select few was no small feat. It essentially made him the new king among the thousands of newcomers, suggesting his strength was not to be underestimated. Otherwise, it would be hard to convince the crowd. The man known as Ma Ke was actually named Ma Ke, a newcomer at the early stage of the 4-star Dou realm. He was evaluated as having 4th-tier talent, which, while not as powerful as 5th-tier talent, still placed him among the top 100 out of the thousands of newcomers. Being ranked as a 4-star Dou indicated that Ma Ke was not weak by any means. As Ma Ke's words echoed, those around him began whispering among themselves. Realization slowly dawned on the rest of the square as well. How could the new king be someone at the peak of the 3-star Dou realm? How could that convince anyone? The new recruits with 5th-tier talent were naturally expected to produce the new king, whose strength had to be superior to theirs, commanding respect and admiration. Yue Ru's rank was understood because of her status as an inheritor. Even though she was only at the peak of the 3-star Dou realm, that was not surprising given the rumors of the challenges inheritors faced in their cultivation. However, for Xiao Yan to also be at the peak of the 3-star Dou and yet hold the title of new king caused some dissatisfaction among the crowd. To say they were dissatisfied was an understatement. They were envious of the new king position. Although the specific rules and rewards of the subsequent selection rounds were unknown, it was evident to the keen observers that the mystic Three Heavens would not organize such a test without a purpose. The new king title might very well come with enticing benefits. The main issue was that this new king was currently just at the peak of the 3-star Dou realm. A peak 3-star Dou might seem only a step away from a 4-star Dou, but as those who had reached the 4-star level knew, that small gap was actually vast. This was why Ma Ke dared to challenge Xiao Yan for the title of new king. While many in the square possessed the strength of a 4-star Dou, few dared to challenge Xiao Yan. On one hand, they feared that the new king might have some hidden depths or trump cards. On the other hand, they didn't want to be the first to stick their necks out. But Ma Ke thought differently. He had noticed Xiao Yan's calm demeanor earlier, even after Ma Ke's provocative glances, which emboldened him to step forward and be the first to challenge. Ma Ke knew the risks of standing out, but he was confident. As a 4-star Dou, he believed he had a fair chance of defeating the new king, who was merely at the peak of the 3-star Dou. And if his challenge succeeded, the new king title would be his. Then, if anyone else wanted to challenge him, he could simply shut his door and refuse. That way, he could secure his position as new king. The more he thought about it, the more Ma Ke felt this was an opportunity heaven sent, one he couldn't afford to miss. This? Another one at the peak of the 3-star Dou? Zhu Zhuqing furrowed her brows in confusion. This person seems to have an extremely powerful aura, Huang Xiao murmured, her long whip in her hand vibrating with a faint hum. It was as if it was afraid of Xiao Yan. Although Huang Xiao was battle-hungry, she was also a thoughtful woman. Deep in thought, she observed Xiao Yan, who stood on the high platform with a harmless smile. She seemed to sense a strong and intense aura of danger hidden beneath that smile. This Xiao Yan is not simple, Huang Xiao said with a smile, her dark eyes shifting slightly as she addressed the 4 men beside her. Gentlemen, do none of you want the title of new king? This Xiao Yan, at the peak of the 3-star Dou, gives you mid-stage 4-star Dou experts a good chance of winning. Hee Miss He, you overestimate us. The title of new king naturally belongs to the strongest. Although Xiao Yan is only at the peak of the 3-star Dou, he is not to be underestimated, Song Cheng replied. Hearing this, the other 3 nodded. All 6 of them were at the mid-stage of the 4-star Dou realm. In terms of individual strength, none could easily overpower the others. But they weren't fools. Even the girl with the inheritor status was ranked second. If Xiao Yan was ranked first and crowned new king, he must possess a foundation even stronger than that of the inheritor. As Xiao Yan's voice fell, the crowd in the square finally snapped out of their shock. Moments ago, they were astounded by the elder's announcement of the top spot. After all, being first among the select few was a major feat, essentially crowning him the new king among thousands of newcomers. His strength must be substantial. Otherwise, how could he convince the masses? The man known as Ma Ku was actually named Ma Ku, a newcomer at the early stage of the 4-star Dou realm. His talent had been assessed as 4th tier, which, while not as impressive as 5th tier talent, still ranked him among the top 100 out of thousands. Being evaluated as a 4-star Dou indicated considerable strength. As soon as Ma Ku spoke, those around him began to murmur quietly. Gradually, the rest of the square began to react. How could a new king be someone at the peak of the 3-star Dou realm? How could that command any respect? A newcomer with 5th-tier talent must naturally be the new king here, someone whose strength surpasses all others, gaining the crowd's full acceptance. Yue Ru's ranking was understandable because of her status as an inheritor. Even if she was only at the peak of the 3-star Dou, it was no surprise, given the rumors of how challenging it was for inheritors to cultivate. However, Xiao Yan, also at the peak of the 3-star Dou realm and holding the title of New King, caused some dissatisfaction among the crowd. To say there was dissatisfaction was an understatement. Many were envious of the New King position. Although the specific rules and rewards of the subsequent selection rounds were unknown, it was evident to the keen observers that the mystic 3 heavens would not organize such a test without a purpose. The New King title might very well come with enticing benefits. Moreover, the New King was currently just at the peak of the 3-star Dou realm. The peak of the 3-star Dou might seem a minor step away from the 4-star Dou, but for those who had reached the 4-star level, they knew the gap was immense. This was why Ma Ku dared to challenge Xiao Yan for the title of New King. While many in the square had the strength of a 4-star Dou, few dared to challenge Xiao Yan. They feared the New King might have hidden depths or trump cards, and they didn't want to be the first to make a move. But Ma Ku thought differently. He had noticed Xiao Yan's calm demeanor earlier, even after Ma Ku's provocative glances, which emboldened him to step forward and be the first to challenge. Ma Ku knew the risks of standing out, but he was confident. As a 4-star Dou, he believed he had a fair chance of defeating the New King, who was merely at the peak of the 3-star Dou. And if his challenge succeeded, the New King title would be his. Then, if anyone else wanted to challenge him, he could simply refuse. That way, he could secure his position as New King. The more he thought about it, the more Ma Ku felt this was an opportunity heaven sent, one he couldn't afford to miss. It seems some still don't believe. What do you think? This Ma Ku is at the early stage of the 4-star Dou. The elder on the high platform put away the jade slip. Clearly, he had intentionally not mentioned the level 10 soul power, note after Xiao Yan's name. He was eager to see how powerful this soul strength could be. No big deal, Xiao Yan responded calmly, clearly not taking the early stage 4-star Dou, Ma Ku, seriously. Ha ha ha, what's this? So, the so-called New King is just a coward hiding in the shadows? Ma Ku continued taunting relentlessly. Enough. Stop talking nonsense. Yue Ru couldn't hold back any longer. She stepped forward, glaring at Ma Ku with fierce eyes. Don't speak ill of him. Yue Ru unleashed her Dou Qi to the maximum and began walking towards Ma Ku. The square, which had been bustling moments ago, fell silent for a moment before erupting into uproarious laughter. Ha ha ha. The New King being protected by a woman. What a joke. Might as well go home to mommy, the crowd jeered. Ha ha ha, Xiao Yan. Did you hear that? Are you going to win the New King title under a woman's protection? You might as well head home. Ma Ku laughed heartily. Yue Ru was about to attack when Xiao Yan spoke from the high platform. You want to challenge me, don't you? I accept. There's no need for these petty tricks. After all, accepting your challenge will only waste a few seconds of my time. Arrogant fool. You'd better be careful, or you might end up biting your tongue. Ma Ku shouted in anger. Hearing this, Yue Ru retreated, realizing she had let her emotions get the better of her. Meanwhile, Ma Ku was grinning broadly. It had been stated during the test that anyone could challenge someone with a higher talent level, as long as both parties agreed. Moreover, if he succeeded in the challenge, the title of New King would be his. Then, thinking of this, Maka smiled even wider. His provocations were precisely because he feared Xiao Yan would refuse the challenge. If Xiao Yan had refused, regardless of whether he truly deserved the new king title, he would have held onto it firmly. Fortunately, this kid had acted impulsively. Now his chance had come. New king, huh? Maka's eyes were filled with greed. Elder, what are the rules for the match? Xiao Yan asked the elder beside him. Just don't kill each other, the elder replied slowly. Maku, I accept your challenge, Xiao Yan said with a harmless smile as he looked at Maku. Himph, putting on an act. Maku snorted coldly, clearly unimpressed by Xiao Yan's demeanor. It worked. This Xiao Yan really is foolish, Maku thought to himself. Xiao Yan, having been taken to Wujiang because of his extraordinarily strong soul power, was not too familiar with these rules. But Maka knew them all too well. While Maku understood that Xiao Yan's recognition as new king meant he undoubtedly had his strengths, he still took a gamble. After all, the gap between the peak of the 3-star Dou and the early stage of the 4-star Dou gave him plenty of confidence. Furthermore, under the condition that both sides agree to the challenge, even if he defeats Xiao Yan and takes the title of new king, it would still be within the rules. So, when he saw Xiao Yan not backing down but instead accepting, Maku's smile grew even wider. Maku challenges the new king, Xiao Yan. Fight until one yields, no lethal moves. The elder on the high platform announced slowly, his drowsy eyes gradually opening. Maku stared intently at Xiao Yan, having already made up his mind. Once the battle began, he would strike with lightning speed, aiming to defeat Xiao Yan swiftly and decisively, to show him that the title of new king is not so easily obtained. Clearly, Maka came from a formidable family, accustomed to a life of privilege. He had no doubt that Xiao Yan stood no chance against him. So much talk. Well then, let's fight, Xiao Yan muttered, descending slowly from the high platform to the square below. As Xiao Yan descended into the square, the crowd watched closely. Despite his calm demeanor and the absence of any visible Dou Qi, his presence was enough to send chills down their spines. From Xiao Yan, they could distinctly feel a killing intent, the kind that only someone who has survived countless life and death battles would possess. That kind of killing intent is invisible, something that can only be cultivated through constant fighting on the edge of death. But still, the peak of the 3-star Dou is just the peak of the 3-star Dou, Maku said, trying to maintain his composure, though he, too, had noticed the invisible killing aura emanating from Xiao Yan. The crowd instinctively stepped back, leaving 100-meter-wide circular space for the two to use in their battle. They knew that the clash between Dou experts would undoubtedly be fierce. This Xiao Yan is no ordinary person, not a trace of Dou Qi leaking from his body, yet his killing intent is incredibly intense. This is clearly something that can only be gained from years of life and death struggles. So, that means this Xiao Yan is either a worthless nobody or a very formidable opponent, Huanxia said, her delicate hand gripping her exquisite whip as she stared at the smiling Xiao Yan. Huanxia was battle-hungry, but unlike the pampered scions of noble families who lived lives of luxury, she, too, had honed herself through years of life and death struggles in the outside world. She knew well that killing intent could not be faked. On the other hand, Maku was obviously a young lord who had been sheltered in a life of comfort. This duel was more likely to turn into a one-sided slaughter. As Huanxia's words fell, the 5 other newcomers with 5th-tier talent standing beside her narrowed their eyes, their brows furrowing. Clearly, they also felt the significant pressure emanating from Xiao Yan. What do you think? Can Xiao Yan defeat Maku in 10 moves? Song Cheng asked. Clearly, those who were rated as newcomers with 5th-tier talent had not only great strength but also keen judgment. 10 moves is too many. In my opinion, 8 should be enough, Zhu Zhuqing said with a smile. It had been a long time since someone this powerful had appeared in her field of vision. Today, you will lose your title as new king, I'm sure of it, Maku said, glaring at Xiao Yan, his words slow and deliberate. For some reason, Maku felt a hint of fear from Xiao Yan's presence, But he had no time to dwell on it now and tried to suppress any other thoughts. Although I accepted your challenge, since it is a challenge, you need to show sufficient sincerity. Otherwise, the challenge itself would be unfair. I don't have any stakes in this, Xiao Yan said as he stood within the circular battle area with Ma Ku. Oh, what kind of stakes are you looking for? Ma Ku replied slowly. 1 million. Xiao Yan held up a finger and said coldly. You. Ma Ku retorted angrily. What was Xiao Yan playing at? And now this? Even he didn't have such an amount readily available. I don't have 1 million, but I do have an imperial tier pill. How about we wager this pill instead? Ma Ku, growing increasingly impatient, suggested. He was clearly frustrated by Xiao Yan's antics. Oh, what kind of pill? Xiao Yan asked, intrigued. It's an auxiliary pill, the Wind Extreme pill. It can greatly increase the user's speed. Ma Ku explained slowly. What do you say? Are we fighting or not? Ma Ku said, his irritation evident. All right, since that's the case, let's fight, Xiao Yan replied. But since you've shown such sincerity, I should also show mine. 1 move. If you can withstand just 1 move from me, I'll willingly give up the title of new king. Xiao Yan's voice slowly resonated across the square. Suddenly, the entire square fell silent. This Xiao Yan, isn't this a bit too arrogant? With the strength of a peak 3-star Dou, it's not just 1 move. Even 10 moves wouldn't be enough to fend off a 4-star Dou expert. Could Xiao Yan have been scared senseless by Ma Ku? Some in the square wondered silently. This new king is certainly arrogant, Song Cheng muttered to himself. Arrogance requires enough self-confidence in one's own strength. Huanxia said softly, her eyes fixed on Xiao Yan standing in the square. Yue Ru and Mu Feng, upon hearing this, remained silent because they believed that Xiao Yan wasn't someone who would boast without backing it up. Such bold words. I want to see how you plan to defeat me in 1 move. Ma Ku, this time, didn't get angry. Instead, he spoke calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, a massive surge of Dou Qi burst forth from Ma Ku. His early-stage 4-star Dou strength was on full display. Though proud, Ma Ku was cautious, fearing that Xiao Yan might have some unique trick up his sleeve. Therefore, he concentrated his enormous Dou Qi into a powerful energy shield in front of him to protect himself. As long as he could withstand Xiao Yan's single strike, the title of new king would be his. The eyes of thousands in the square were focused on the battle circle between Xiao Yan and Ma Ku. Xiao Yan, who had previously had his eyes closed, suddenly opened them. In an instant, from a distance of 100 meters away, he appeared next to Ma Ku like a shooting star. With a smile, he unleashed a terrifying palm strike aimed directly at Ma Ku. The moment Xiao Yan appeared beside him, Ma Ku felt his head go heavy, causing his control over his Dou Qi to falter slightly. This disruption created a small flaw in the protective energy shield surrounding him. Boom! Xiao Yan's seemingly simple palm strike shattered Ma Ku's energy shield, sending him flying back hundreds of meters, blood spurting from his mouth, before he fell unconscious. The entire square fell into a deathly silence, as if the world itself had stopped.